Hello, everyone. I'm Marty from Silver Creek Leather. Silver Creek Leather is a manufacturer for some of the leather goods that we have in Michael's store. Currently in the jewelry section, we have some real leather products, and that is what Carol will be working with today, our designer. So let's turn it over to Carol and see what creativity she has.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Carol Hefner, and I'm a designer in the creative arts product industry. I develop projects for manufacturers to help inspire you to create. I'm excited to be here with you today. And of course, I'm joined with Marty from Real Leather. Today, we're going to show you how to create earrings and a necklace. In this class, you will learn how to cut leather with a rotary cutter and scissors, how to punch holes in leather, how to open and close a jump ring. So let's get started. The leather comes in various sets. And today we are going to use the premium brown and rose gold, and also the copper from the leather value pack. Now the leather value pack comes in many different types. So they're just great to work with. You just unroll them and flatten the leather. All right, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take actually, let me start by saying this is the earring that we're going to work on today. It is very simple, and you should have your patterns from the Michael's website. Now, I'm going to start with the copper leather, and I took my patterns and I put my patterns onto low-tack masking tape, which makes it much easier to cut. Line up the masking tape on the leather. Okay, like that. And as you can see, it takes a little bit to get that level. Now, I'd like to talk a little bit about the rotary tool. The blade on the rotary tool is very, very sharp. And when you're using the rotary tool, place your one hand that's going to hold the leather below the blade, and then move the blade upwards. When cutting, never have your hand above the blade. Let's just say that, you know, maybe or maybe not. I've learned that from experience. So we're going to make a second cut, again, holding the leather below the blade, and then cutting again. If it doesn't cut all the way, just recut it with the blade. Now, I do use my scissors in case there's any stray pieces of leather. I want the earrings to look clean. So I will go in and I will just trim any fibers that are sticking out. Now, I will say it is a little tricky to remove the masking tape, but it helps you to get a nice looking shape. Now, we're making just one earring, but everything that I do today, you're going to repeat to make a second earring. Now we have the copper piece. Now we're going to go with the rose gold. And with the rose gold, we're taking the smaller piece of the smaller template, and we're placing that on the rose gold leather. And once again, we're putting our fingers below the blade and cutting upwards. And then cutting again, following the pattern. And sometimes it doesn't go all the way through. So we pick up the scissors and we trim. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I haven't seen any questions yet. I will
Okay.
be when I do. Oh, if you'd like to, oh, no,
Go ahead.
that's a question. It was just a statement that if you'd like to show us your amazing creations, once it's finished, then to post it to social media and be sure to hashtag Michael's classes and hashtag make it with Michael's. We always
So-
like to see how creative everyone else is going to be with your ideas.
So now I just place the rose gold over the copper leather, and I am going to take the hole punch. Now, sometimes I cheat and I take a pen or a pencil and I just press a little hole there so I know where I'm going to want to punch the hole. And I just push down. And then I take each of the leathers separately to punch the hole. Now, as you can see with this earring, we use this pear shape on the front of the earring. And that's what I have here. That's what we're making today. But Michael's has a lot of different findings and things that you could use. And this is another piece that I picked up at Michael's, and it just makes the earring look so different. And imagine using one of the other leather combinations with this pattern. I mean, it's just, you could really make unlimited amount of earrings and make them look so different. I just love seeing the different options that are available. Now, we're going to take our pliers and we're going to open the large, we're going to open the large 6mm jump ring. To open the jump ring, you place one pliers on one side of the opening and your other pliers on the other side of the opening, and you twist the jump ring away from you, and that will open it. I slip on the pear finding and then the rose gold leather and then the copper leather. And then actually I am going to then slip on a 4mm jump ring, and to close the jump ring, I'm just going to twist it back together. So let me go over just opening and closing a jump ring again. There's a tiny slit in the jump ring, and you just push your left hand downwards to open and then upwards to close so that it meets again in the center. So now I'm going to make sure this jump ring is closed properly. And I'm going to take the earring finding and I'm going to slip the jump ring over it. And I'm just gently going to close that finding with my earrings, with my pliers.
Carol, do you happen to know what the flat pliers are called at Michael's site?
Yes, these are the flat nose pliers. And these would be the jewelry needle nose pliers.
Okay.
Yes. And they're really nice for making jewelry. So there we have our 2 earrings completed, and you saw that it really takes no time to make these earrings. And you have so many different lovely leathers from which you could choose. So you can match any outfit that you have at home. So those are our earrings. Are there any other questions about the earrings before we start the necklace?
I don't see, gorgeous. I love them. How about that statement?
Thank you. Well, we'd love to see what you make and just share them on social media with us. One thing I like about these projects is you really don't need a lot of jewelry making skills or leather making skills to create them. They're just fast to do. They look awesome. This one design that the necklace design, what came from looking at different fashion shows from Europe. And I saw that they were wearing very chunky necklaces now. So we're going to start making this. And I will also show you how to create the, how to use the, I can't think what they're called, the crimp beads at the end of the cording. All right, so once again, I placed my necklace template onto masking tape. And we're going to start with the brown. Sorry about that. We're going to start with the brown, which is the solid piece. And I'm just removing the masking tape from the little plastic that I had on. And I'm just going to place the masking tape onto the brown leather from the kit. And again, I'm rolling away from my fingers. And I'm going to come in and I'm going to turn the leather and I'm going to cut away as well.
I wanted to add while you were doing that, and I noticed you could probably, if you were making a gift for people, you could probably make 6 cuts out of each of the 3x9 pieces to make this particular necklace.
Correct. Okay, and then I'm going to remove the pattern. But I think before I remove the pattern, I'm going to take the scissors again and just make sure that if there's any stray pieces, that I'm just gently removing them. And I would like to mention, yeah, I'm using a nice polyform board to cut the leather. So that's our brown piece. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but the pattern for the front, for the top piece and the bottom are actually the same size.
Carol, I have a question here.
Go ahead.
How do you cut the inside hole? You haven't gotten to that yet, have you?
Nope, we're going to do it right now.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to take I'm going to see if I have enough from this piece to cut the inside hole. Now, when removing this, you have to be careful not to tear the masking tape. So I'm going to see if this will actually fit. I don't think it will. So we are going to open the new pack of leather. And we are going to use the rose gold from there. And I'm just applying the masking tape to the leather.
Okay. So the
Okay.
question was, how do you cut the inside hole out of the tape? You just use the rotary cutter probably to do the inside triangle, right? That's
Oh,
part of your
when I did it on the masking tape, I actually used a craft knife.
Okay.
Used the rotary cutter because I was cutting paper, or I was cutting like I was actually cutting the masking tape, and
Okay.
which was on paper, like cardstock, heavy cardstock. So I
Mhm.
didn't want to dull the blade.
That makes sense.
So you would just take, I don't have a craft knife here to show you, but you just trace it with your craft knife. Now I'm going to work on the inside first, and I am going to roll the blade down. And again, come on, roll the blade down again. And roll it across. And I'm just going to put pressure on it at the top. Now this is not going to cut it all the way through. So I'm going to take my scissors and finish cutting what was not cut with the blade. And I do the inside first because it's easier to handle a large piece of leather than it is a small piece of leather. And actually, the inside piece of leather from the necklace is the same size, is almost the same size as the earring. So if you make a few of these, you can always make earrings out of the remnants from this. Waste not, want not. All right, so now I'm going to cut the rest of the shape of the top piece. And I'm going to roll the blade away from me again. And across. And again, I'm going to come in and I'm going to trim the edges, especially the inside edges. So to make it look as clean as possible.
Okay, there's a question. If you wanted the earrings to have the same color, leather, and texture on both sides, for example, the gold leather choice, what could you use to bind the two leather pieces together? Michaels carries a Phoebe's leather cement that should be used for this, and that is also sold in the jewelry department.
Boy, that was a fantastic question. I never thought of, having an earring that looked the same on both sides. And that would make it more sturdy too. So I'm removing the masking tape carefully because I may want to use the masking tape again. Now, I place the gold over the brown leather, and I take the I usually have a pen or a pencil, and I just mark the top of the inside of the rose gold leather where that meets the brown. So I know where to cut. I fold the leather in half. And I make a small slit. And I'll show you why in a second. Because when I cut the copper piece is going to fit through that leather, the brown leather below. And it actually lifts the copper, the rose gold upper piece a little bit, so you see the brown underneath. So if I can just find the gold piece, here we go. And I'm going to put my masking tape onto the leather. And again, I'm going to cut away. And if you've been noticing, I have been using the edge of the leather for the straight pieces. So there's less for me to cut. Like here, I put the masking tape on the edge of the leather. So I only had to cut 3 sides instead of 4. Okay, once again, I'm going to go in and trim. I'm going to remove that. And I'm taking my masking tape off. And this will be a little bit tricky, but you can manage it. You have to push the copper leather through the brown leather, and it does take a little bit to get it through there, but it's not, impossible. And then you put the rose gold leather on top of that. Now, before I make the hole, I look around and try to find the well, I'm just going to steal it from the I have to put the pear shape onto the necklace, and for some reason, I don't know how many times it's happened to you, but you cannot find a jump ring or whatever you're working on. So I'm going to steal it from here. So I just place this in between the copper leather. And once again, I'm going to mark where I'm going to want to make my hole. And make sure that both ends are tucked in. Okay, I'm going to turn it around. There we go. And now I'm going to open up. I'm going to open up the jump ring. Again, twisting it away from my body. And I'm going to insert the jump ring through that hole. And gently close the jump ring by twisting it. And there we have our pendant. So now we're going to make the necklace part of our pendant. And I will tell you that it takes me a while to be able to close these. Oh, thank you. It's going to take me a while to close these lobster clasps. I'm sorry, not clasps. The crimp beads. I gently put your cording in the middle, and then try to close the sides.
You have 2 comments. So cute and so pretty.
Ah, thank you. I bet that's not my skills on the on the crimp bead here.
What cording are you using for the necklace that you're crimping that onto?
The cording, I'm sorry, I should have showed you that. The cording I am using is from Bead Landing. It's the round leather, and I'm using the black one. This also comes in different colors. And again, it takes a while to close this crimp bead, but I was able to do it. I would suggest practicing on that. Mine don't always work right. So I need a little practice as well. So now I'm going to slip the other end through the jump ring, and I am going to create a second ending. And again,
Someone commented the crimp findings are super hard to close, so we are with you.
oh, thank you. I appreciate the support. Yes, they are. Sometimes they are my Waterloo. As you can tell. Okay, come on. All right, we're working it. And as you can see, I sometimes switch between pliers just to try to get it closed. And there we go. That one turned out a little bit better. Now I am going to take 2 4mm jump rings. And
how long of a cord did you cut for that? Do you know?
Oh,
Right,
I'm sorry. The cord I cut was anywhere from 18 inches to 24 inches. It's wherever you would like the necklace to sit on your body. To measure, to be honest, I just wrap the cord around my body and hold the pendant up to see where I want it to go. So while the instructions might say 18 to 14, if you are smaller, it may be 16. You know, it just depends on your body and where you want that necklace to lay. All right, so I'm going to open up the 4mm.
Carol, 1 second. There is a statement here that they purchased a kit this morning that contained everything for this class: faux leather, scissors, etc. Unfortunately, the pieces of faux leather have a strong bad odor. Is faux leather real leather, and is that normal? This particular project is done with real leather products, a genuine leather. The faux leather is not real leather. It is made of artificial content. So this is a totally different substrate than what you had purchased in the kit. And these are sold separately right now in the jewelry department. They also have some leather in the craft department that is genuine leather. So I can just suggest to be careful when you're purchasing it if you want genuine leather.
Yes, the real leather really doesn't have an odor to it. It has, you know, it's actually pleasant. So I'm opening up the smaller jump ring, And I am placing it on one side of the necklace, and I'm placing the lobster clasp in it, and I'm closing that end. And then I'm going to take another 4mm, and I'm going to try to find the separation in the jump ring. And I'm going to open that. And I'm going to place it in the opposite end. And this time I'm placing a 6mm jump ring in that, and I'm going to close the smaller ring.
Okay, someone has asked the question about the carding. Because it's wrapped around the winder card, they're asking how to get it to not have so many bends in it. You can actually, yes, stretch it and straighten it out with your hands. I could also suggest that you get a little bit of moisture on your fingers and get it wet and stretch it. I have actually taken a piece and put it underneath a towel with steam and kind of went over it with an iron. So there's different ways to smooth it out.
Right, but yeah, you know, it just the heat from your hands too, as you're stretching it, will soften it. Even with the leathers that come in the rolls, what I do is I just open the roll up and place it flat. You can put some books on top of them, but eventually it just goes flat on its own. So you might want to open, when you purchase your roll, you might want to open it up and let it sit for a few days and then work with it. So I added the small jump ring and the larger jump ring on the end. And now we just open the lobster clasp and you have your necklace. If you want, when you're making this necklace, because I like the way, I like the length of the Pear binding, the way it sits on the necklace right now, but I do find that it falls out sometimes. If that is the case, and if that's annoying to you, what I do is I open up the jump ring again. And you could actually insert the little hole into the jump ring. And then insert the jump ring back into the copper leather. I should have left that alone. All right, let's try that again. So we're going to insert that, insert the jump ring. Sorry, it just doesn't look like it's going to work the way I want it to work right now.
That's live TV.
Yes, it is. It's saying, no, girl, I like the way it was. You're not going to change me. But again, with this project, just like with the earrings, I mean, I absolutely love the color of the copper, the rose gold, and with the rose gold pear shape. But again, you know, when you're in Michael's, you can see what other colors may work with this. If not this rose gold, you know, maybe some silver. And it totally changes the look.
So someone was just asking, is it possible to use balls? Well, of course, you're showing that you can use any different type of finding.
Anything.
There's also a question about jump rings and other findings being available in sterling silver or gold. That would be a question directly to Michael's. Since we are representing the leather manufacturer, I'm not positive on that, so I would not want to answer that question wrong.
Well, the set that came with this, with these jump rings, they did have the rose gold color. I'm going to see. Oh, here it is here. So this set came with the rose gold, and I'm not sure what the darker color is. I think it's gunmetal.
Yeah, like gunmetal.
Yeah. And again, I mean, it really is up to you. I mean, we've given you these ideas, but you can use different colored leathers, different, you know, findings and focal points. It's really up to you and the style you would like to create for yourself. And you know, with well, we're in fall now, but with winter coming, these would look really super with you know, winter clothes, or if you're having a special event. Any other questions?
There's a couple comments. This is a great design. You have many ways to make changes. True. And this is beautiful and it looks expensive.
Thank you. Thank you. That's what we try to do, you know, and the leather and the findings is really what makes, you know, I have been creating projects for a very long time. And I find when you use quality products, then the end result looks expensive. Anything else?
Can you show how you bought the package of the leather and the cording? Do you still have those available? So just so they can, because we have a little bit of time left.
Okay, sure. Let me just clear everything here. This is the cording again.
Yeah. 3 different colors up on one package.
Correct. And there's Marty, I believe there are different, there are also different colors. These are just one sample of that.
Yes.
This is the brown that we used and the rose gold, which this rose gold is just absolutely stunning. And then we have the others. We have, I like this crackle. I'm not sure, Marty, if that, it looks silver, but it also looks like it has gold in it.
Yes.
And this black and silver is just stunning. And then we have, Marty, I'm not sure, is this a fish scale type?
That's a Cobra granite, that's called.
That's pretty. And then we have more of a traditional stamped look. And of course, who doesn't like leopard? Is that leopard?
Yes.
Okay, making sure. You know, because I always get leopard and cheetah, you know, really mixed. And then of course, the leather value packs are really neat. And I am sure you can make a gazillion projects out of these packets. They're really cool.
Yep, it gives a lot of variety.
It sure does. It sure does.
Does anyone online here have any questions for Carol? I don't see any posts coming up. Awesome class, Carol. Hope that you will offer more leather tutorials. We will do it. We'll come up with something.
How did she get the patterns? I created those patterns. Part of my job as a designer in the industry is to come up with designs and patterns for the different manufacturers.
And these patterns are available with the class. If you have the email link, or when the class becomes a recorded class, I believe they'll be available then.
Great.
All right, I think that should wrap it up. We're early. You did great.
How did you put the hole in the pattern? Are you talking about the necklace? We actually cut that using the Rotary Tool. If you notice, the pattern comes with the cutout. And somebody asked where I came up with the pattern. As you can see, I start with Post-it notes, and I create my patterns on Post-it notes. And then I actually transfer them to the computer, and I use a computer program to design them on the computer so they can get into the internet. And then I print them out and then transfer them to masking tape. Were these made with a Cricut? No, this pattern was my own design, and I drew them by hand. And as you can see, I have my little measurements on my template here, my prototype. Any other questions?
Impressive. I think we're good. We're ahead of schedule.
I have a question for everyone. What color do you think you would make your earring and necklace set out of? Are you going to make these? I mean, the earrings are so super to make. I mean, they're super quick. You can make them in no time at all. Maroon and brown and gray. Oh yeah, that's good. Good.
Michael does have some leather and bigger pieces. Someone asked about leather and bigger pieces. So some of this leather is in jewelry, and some of this leather is in craft aisle in bigger pieces that would be separated from jewelry, and it would be under the ArtMinds brand.
You know, and I would like to add, everyone thinks of leather for fall and winter, but leather earrings and leather jewelry also look super great in spring and summer. You know, you just go with the lighter colors.
Vibrant colors.
Metallic colors are awesome.
Yes. There's a question about cutting this on the Cricut. We've had several of those questions, and you can take, if I'm not mistaken, you can take a pattern and scan it to your computer and use that scan on Cricut and do your placement onto the mat that's on the screen to do your cutouts.
But when you do, make sure that it is you follow the measurements on the pattern, because I know when I printed the patterns out on my computer, they actually came out larger than they should have. You know, I would probably do a test cut first before cutting it onto the leather.
And Cricut does have particular leather settings by the ounce of leather that you're cutting.
Correct. It depends on the one you're using, the machine you're using. I can't see why not. Can you, Marty? Use crystals on the leather?
Oh, I don't see why not. They actually have some leather jewelry with, I believe their crystals are glued onto their leather jewelry, so.
Right. If you could just show my hands for a minute. What I would probably do,
Can you switch cameras?
yeah. Okay, no. Okay, there we go.
Sorry about that.
That's
Got
okay.
stuck.
What I would do is I would take the tool that I'm gonna make a hole, and I would just lightly make a hole, but don't go all the way through with it. And then I would, so that there's a little bit of a depression. And then I would probably put a little bit of glue there, and then the crystal on top of it. Make sure that a little bit of the glue goes over the crystal's edge to keep it really on tack so it doesn't fall off.
Yes. There was a question about the tool you just used. That's a jewelry punch.
Yes. And it's great for leather.
Yes. Glue, there is a leather cement again in the jewelry section. It's made by Phoebings, and that's what we recommend for glue.
I don't think I would use these for earring, for cutting
It
my
kind of looks like it, but it might hurt. Yes, there are paints for leather at Michael's. There's also leather dye pens in the craft section that are a little bit easier to use for smaller pieces. They have two different tips on them. There's a pointed tip and a brush type tip on each color. So that would be a good alternative for painting some leather. So we did end up with lots of questions.
That's good. I like questions. Anything more before we go? Well, I hope you enjoyed the class today as much as Marty and I did. It's always a joy to, I'm glad you've learned so much. Thank you. You know, it is fun holding these classes. Thank you.
Thank you.
When is your next one?
We don't know yet. We'll let you
Time
know.
for design.
Stay tuned.
Bye. Oh, when can I watch? The classes will be up, I'm told, in 24 hours on the michaels.com/classes. That's michaels.com/classes. And I believe they're showing you that on the screen. And remember, when you make projects using the ideas in this class, we'd love to see them. Go to #MakeItWithMichaels and or #MichaelsClasses.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you. It was nice being with you again, Marty.
All right.
And listening with everyone here. Really enjoyed it.
Yes. Thank you so much.